Good afternoon, students. So, although we have finished the chapter Making of a Global World, I think I should conclude it by linking this chapter with the COVID-19 and how we are going to link it, we will see. So, the previous chapter, that is Making of a Global World in History, I think I started with the definition of globalization, and that globalization did exist in the pre-modern century. I have cited so many examples, right from the Silk Route, the food traveling, example noodles, spaghetti. Then apart from that, diseases traveling like smallpox, the rinderpest. Then you have role of technology, refrigerated frozen foods, how meat became more popular, and its consequences. Then of course, as a result of conquering the colonies, how globalization and how disease transmitted from one country to the other. Best example is smallpox from America. So after that, we are seeing that the nations are vying with one another, and it results in the First World War. And the impact of the First World War, one of the most important impact was the Great Economic Depression of 1929. And then within a gap of 20 years, that is 1919 to 1939, the Second World War breaks out, ending in the explosion of two cities, that is Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The post-war economy, the world nations saw an unprecedented loss of men, money, materials. Second World War supposed to be another that is more disastrous than the First World War. With the explosion of the two cities, it took, that is Hiroshima and Nagasaki, it was a shock, and it took so many years for Japan. Of course, not so many years, because Japan, being a small country, she fought the situation, and today she is one of the world's largest developed nations, one among the largest developed nations in the world. But the explosion of the two cities, that is, the atom bomb was thrown and two cities were exploded, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Even today, the children born there have some defect or the other. So how many years before it took place? More than 70 it occurred, and even today the impact is there. And I also told you how to combat this loss. For that, the two institutions, World Bank and IMF, were established, called as the twins institutions or Bretton Woods institution. Then came the policy of decolonization, where most of the Asian and African nations achieved their independence, and all the Asian nations, they decided to form, or not they decided, they formed a group called the G77, or group of 77 countries. The main objective being to fight against colonialism and to take a strong, determined, or to implement a very strong and determined policy that the natural resources of each of these nations within their political boundaries would be used only by them and not any other foreign nation. They would not allow any other foreign country to exploit the natural resources. So today, let me draw a similarity between the globalization in the pre-modern world and the globalization today. Today, as a result of globalization, we have so many, what you call as the impact. You have the development of international economy. You have as a result of the in IT companies, the multinational companies. There is an exchange of cultural exchange, film festivals, music festivals. All these, you in the name of Olympic Games, you have 2020, then you have cricket, international cricket. All these things are a result of globalization. And to expand themselves, each country as I've been telling you right from the beginning, to expand themselves, or in the name of development, they have also started exploiting the natural resources of their own countries by cutting the forests, by displacing the tribal people, by not giving shelter to the wild animals. And today it has resulted in the so-called COVID-19. Just recall what I told you some 2 minutes back, G77. The aim itself was that they will not allow any other foreign country to exploit the natural resources. But today, what are we doing? Instead of, that is not that the foreigners are exploiting, we ourselves, we have exploited the natural resources, and it has ended in the great pandemic. It is another world war. It is the nations on one side, all the nations on one side, and you can call it as the allied powers and the axis powers, that is coronavirus. And so far no solution death has not taken place because the nations are fighting against each other. It is only the virus spreading from one person to the other. You know, the social distancing, coming closer, globalization, that has, even culture has changed to a great extent, to a large extent. We have forgotten our traditions, our what you call as culture. And social distancing, instead of social distancing, I should use the word, that is social closing. Closeness, socially you have started coming closer and closer. So, this is recalling what we have learned, and I am just linking the pre-globalization then, which existed during, or which developed during the concept of globalization, which emerged during the pre-modern century, and the globalization today. And almost a long history of 75 years before, and after 75 years after 2020, it has ended up in the attack by the coronavirus. Definitely, it goes without saying that it has impact is not the word, not large impact. Impact much more than what words can describe, or what words can speak. Just I have myself, after going through some articles, Economic Times, Business Line, and other websites, I have divided it into headings, and I have taken the key points. I'll read it out and I will explain to you. Impact of COVID-19. I am now talking only about the global impact. I am not taking, because global impact it is general. Then if you are talking about impact on India, maybe there will be a slight difference in the field of economy. So this crisis is the first and foremost health crisis, which has forced the government to take an unprecedented measure, or which has forced the government to take unprecedented measures to protect the people's lives. So it is just not an economic crisis, it is a health crisis for the first and the foremost time. This is in the words of the WTO Director General, Roberto Azevedo. This crisis is first and foremost health crisis, which has forced the government to take unprecedented measures to protect people's lives. So obviously when people's lives are at stake, it has resulted in an unavoidable decline in trade and output. And the output, what you call as unavoidable decline in trade and output. And this will have painful consequences. So an unavoidable decline in trade and the output will obviously have painful consequences on the household, on the businesses, and above, added to it, on the top, you have the human suffering caused by the disease itself. So what should be the immediate goal? The immediate goal is to bring the pandemic under control and mitigate. Mitigate means you have to find out measures. Mitigate the economic damage to people, find out the causes, mitigate the damage, economic damage to people, companies and countries. So what is the dire need today? The pandemic, first and foremost, it should be brought under control. And you have to mitigate, that is reduce, find out measures to reduce the economic damage that has been caused to people, to companies and to countries. And the economists, they are giving certain measures also, like the policy makers must first start planning for the aftermath of the pandemic. So policy makers here, they are meaning the government, any government for that matter. You should start planning policies, the strategies, the measures to overcome the aftermath of the pandemic. Aftermath means consequences. See, the account of the losses incurred, it is unprecedented. It cannot be described in words. So they are saying the numbers are ugly. It's not worth counting or even just viewing. So there is no point in getting around the ugly numbers. There is no point in finding out what is the account, how many have died, what is it. No. But a rapid, vigorous rebound is possible. Go back. That is, a rapid, vigorous rebound is impossible. Is possible. So how is this rapid progress, vigorous rebound? That means you are going back to that development. How is it possible? Whatever decisions the government takes today will determine the future shape of the recovery. So the decisions should be such that it will give a perfect shape. It will mold the shape of the recovery and global growth prospects. So it will shape the future of recovery. It will determine the future shape of the recovery, how it should, and also the global growth prospects. So what are the prospects of the global? How it will be, how it is going to affect. So what are and those decisions policy makers they take, what are its outcome? How far it will work out. So that is what is needed. 3. Foundation for a strong, sustainable and inclusive recovery should be laid. Inclusive. It should be an overall recovery, not recovery for one particular sect or another particular group. It should inclusive. It should be a recovery, a measure, a policy that will include everybody, holistic. And 2, it should be based on sustainable development, strong, sustained and inclusive recovery. So I think we are again and again and again going to geography, going to economics. See, so how the subjects are connected to each other. So if the countries put together, we will see a much faster recovery. If all the countries together work, you can see a much faster recovery than if each country acts on its own or acts alone. That means maybe one country, if you are selfish, you want to try to develop your country to develop at a faster rate than the others. After this pandemic, it's not going to, the fruit will not be as sweet as we expect. Instead, if all the countries unite together and work together, the economic recovery can be much faster than doing it alone. Now, we will pass on to the social impact. All of you know the social impact. We are facing a very great health crisis. Unlike any in the 75-year history of UN. So it is 75 years since UNO was established. Until today, UNO has not seen such a global health crisis. It is more than a health crisis. It is more human. It is more a human crisis, more a social crisis, and more an economic crisis. So when we are talking about the social economic crisis, who are the vulnerable groups who have become a victim or who are again and again likely to become a victim till the entire pandemic settles down? So the vulnerable groups include the older people. You must also be watching the news, or you must be hearing from here and there from others that this virus, it infects the people who are above 65 with morbid cases. Here morbid cases is heart disease, respiratory disorder, then you might be diabetic, you might have hypertension or high BP. Such people, those who have completed 65 years, they are more likely to, they are the vulnerable groups who become a victim of this COVID-19. Okay, we understood. But in this age, when they are unable to support, they are not in a position to support themselves in isolation, because this is a time they need. This is the time we say, after 65, you are a senior citizen, you need the support of your kith and kin. And this disease has no other solution. The only solution is social distancing. So when they are in isolated, when they are isolated, just imagine the state of mind of these older people. Because to reduce the risk of spread, this is the only solution, since no vaccine has been found. So that adds to the mental distress of the older people. That is again an unbearable social impact as a result of COVID-19. See, these days we see society where parents are neglected. You have so many old age homes these days. So many. And that's why you have the so-called gated community. There also it is nothing but all affluent people isolated. That is, they are away from their children. But the name is gated community. You have everything. You have complex. They take you for trips. But it is more or less a moral, social distancing from your children. That itself, there are people who say they have no other choice, because children they are more bothered about their future. Parents have taught them only to be ambitious. Parents have not taught them to, so that ambitions make them stay back and go and leave the parents in the so-called gated community or old age home. And that is, maybe many of them are healthy, many of them are affluent, pensioners, they might have a very good bank balance, but that moral support. So that has been going on. Today, nature itself, is not able to withstand the traditional practices where the children take care of the parents. Okay, now a stage has reached where nature itself has started social distancing. Even if you want to be with the parents, you are not able to. Then comes, how has it affected the disabled? See, for the disabled, those who do not have, cannot move, they are with their clutches, or they are with their crutch, that what you call as walking stick, or they are on their wheelchair. Some of them cannot walk. Then even normally a disabled person's life is miserable. Accessibility to, that is to go mobile, accessibility to have a mobility, it is quite what you call as very difficult. Then imagine a situation where you are isolated or you are socially distanced because of this COVID-19. Think of the vulnerable, the disabled group. You have to depend on others, but you are not able to get their help because it might spread. See, a period when, frankly speaking, Indians have started adopting Indian culture, where major cities, the metropolitan cities, where the culture has totally changed. You have Western culture, dancing, singing, drinking, all these things. And today, the same Western culture, it has, when you feel that all those practices and customs is going to spread one small virus from one body to another, naturally, nature itself has started putting a halt to all these customs and practices. Social distancing. Don't shake your hand. Join your hands when you want to greet somebody. Wash your hands. So all these social distancing, we are the cause again for bringing this social stage reach where coming closer, that was considered to be physically close, that was supposed to be what you call as, it speaks of your dignity and advancement. So coming on to the next vulnerable, what you call as the youth. The youth, they have an additional onus in limiting the spread of the virus. Additional onus. Onus is responsibility. So they have a greater responsibility in limiting the spread of the virus. And they have an additional responsibility to take care of the health, to take care of the economy, and to take care of the society. But as I told you, today the youth, the Hindu paper, there is a statistical data which says COVID-19, the Indian population, 14.4% is affected. The affected group belongs to 0 to 40 years of age, 40. And I think 45 to 65, it's only 10% people are affected. 65 and above, of course, 30%, because they are all having health issues. So obviously infection is, they are more easily prone to infection. So why the 0 to 40 years? Because you are not able to have a self-control over yourself. You want to go out, you want to go together, you want to break the social norms or what you call as the government orders. So obviously you become infected with this particular disease. And as I told you, the youth, many of them are employed in the informal sector, or in other words, they use the word gig economy. And the rate of unemployment, the growth, that is the rate at which the unemployment growth is, again, you cannot take it into account because it is highly disproportionate. Then there are contractual jobs. Then those working in the sector, sectors, the employees, their job is not at a risk, but there will be a blow to the economy after COVID-19, and maybe the whatever certain ideas and other things which they get they might not get or receive it. Then coming to the part of education, more than 1 billion youth in the whole world, they are physically distanced from the educational institutions because of the closure of schools and universities. But this disruption in education could have a long-term consequence on the quality of education, because exams are halted, paper validations are not even halfway through, maybe just a little, 5% of 1 or 2 subjects are just they have just started. So obviously it will affect the quality of education. Despite the fact that the effort made by the teachers, the school and the ministries, local and national government, to cope with the unprecedented circumstances, or to cope with the present situation where education has almost halted. Teachers are taking their best effort through Google classes, through YouTube, through audio recording, all these things. But still, although it is recognized that how they are functioning from sitting at home, it is recognized. But still, it will affect the quality of education. Then the migrant workers, the youth, and the homeless youth, both the migrant workers and the homeless youth, they are in a precarious condition. Precarious means hopeless condition, highly disgusting. And these migrant workers, they are the one who cannot be easily overlooked. Okay, chalega after no, because if you do not pay specific attention to these migrants, now what will happen, especially with regard to their health, with regard to their education, and with regard to their well-being? The nation will have to pay, any nation for that matter, huge price if we are neglecting the particular group, that is the youth. Youth, the migrant workers and the homeless laborers. And so unless there is a solidarity, all of us join together, let us unite and take a strong and firm decision. As you know, Swami Vivekananda says, even if it means going to the bottom of the sea and meeting death face to face. So we should be ready for that, to bring out the best, to save the whole world from the aftermath of this great pandemic. As he says, it's a call, it's a clarion call to the youth and to the entire nation and to the entire world. We want men with strong willpower and nerves of steel, even if it means going to the bottom of the sea and meeting death face to face. So even if we are going, we should be prepared for such a situation if we have to bring the whole world out of this great pandemic. So all of you, as future citizens of India, be responsible. Please do not go out. Please maintain social distancing. Because there are so many souls, good souls, who are working for us. Doctors, sisters, policemen, railway. Then you have the corporation people bringing vegetables, coming to clean, coming to fumigate. Then small vegetable sellers, that is those who go on there, take it in their bullock cart. What are we doing compared to these people? We're all leading a very luxurious life. We are with our family. We have very whatever sufficient and tasty food we have. You have not missed your classes. Either way, something is taught to you. So this one, yesterday I was going through one of the videos that one disabled child, he's telling, you cannot stay back at home for a certain period of time just to save yourself from dying. Have you ever imagined people like me who are disabled? Already we are disabled, we are not able to get access to move, we are not able to get... and so have you ever thought of us who have been inside these four walls for more than almost 2 months? Have you ever thought of the police who would not have gone to the child, to his children, who would not have seen his children, because when they go home they are completely quarantined? They have not spoken to their children a word of recognition, a word of love. Whereas we are all living so luxuriously. So are we not failing in our duty as citizens? It might be for a few months to follow the lockdown restrictions. They're all sacrificing their lives. We have to bow down our head to them. Actually, we have to give them standing ovation. So, my dear children, and of course, this is a word to parents also. Maybe the lockdown, the states might extend it, especially in Tamil Nadu and all. It is soaring up. You will have to stay back. We might not be in a position to help others, but at least see that you're all helping your own family members. It should be a teamwork. If every individual thinks in those lines, no, I will not be responsible for another person to be infected by COVID-19. If each one of us, we are able to take this promise, I think when you are listening to this class, I would ask all of you to close your eyes just for a moment. Thank God that you are all safe. And pray for all those souls who have either directly or indirectly, those who are helping common people like us not to be infected by COVID-19. So I think I have covered I've gone a little beyond the textbook. A very nice article, it was in headings, in subtopics it was given. I just went through and I jotted down the points. So dear children, we are finishing 5 chapters. Now what you will do is, you just go to that app mycbseguide.com, or you need not even save that. If you want, you can save, then it's very easy. You can go to each chapter. They have given you exhaustive questions for 1 mark, 3 marks, 5 marks, chapter wise questions. You can go through that, and writing part I will tell you the next day what you have to do, if any. And don't worry, I am not going to give you too many slides or too many videos. Very limited work as I do every day, every time. But take it as a request from my side. Try to read the lesson at least 20 minutes every day, so that you will mark each time when you read, for you think some new things come to your mind. So I think we can wind up. So stay home, stay safe. This is the only message which I have for you. And cultivate good habits, good culture, good traditions, and mentally and physically by doing some physical exercise, mental exercise by doing some breathing exercise. Make yourself mentally strong and willpower. So I think I'm ending the class. Catch you tomorrow, or maybe day after tomorrow. If I'm not, just see tomorrow I might not post. Otherwise it will be the next day. But please check every day. Today anyway you check, it will be posted by 4 o'clock. The remaining we'll see later. So have a nice day.